For 2 long years, fans watched in horror as a legal battle unfolded, a brutal public war that reached its climax not with a victory, but with a court ruling that would expose fractures within the NewJeans group so deep that many wondered if they could ever be repaired. The entire conflict can be traced back to a single seismic event in 2024, the sudden and shocking dismissal of ADOR's CEO, Min Hee-jin. To understand the gravity of this, you have to understand that Min Hee-jin wasn't just a CEO. In the eyes of the fans, and as we would soon learn, the members themselves, she was the architect of NewJeans. She was recognized as the creative backbone, the visionary who conceptualized their unique brand, guided their every image, and had been with them since their earliest training days. Her removal wasn't just a corporate reshuffling. It felt like a heart being ripped out of the group's identity. The initial public shock was immense, but it was nothing compared to the reaction from the NewJeans members themselves. Their response revealed just how deeply involved and personally connected they were to her, exposing a bond that went far beyond a typical business relationship. In a move that sent tremors through the entire K-pop industry, all 5 members collectively accused ADOR of mistreatment, deliberate miscommunication, and manipulation. They didn't just make complaints, they demanded an internal investigation and the reinstatement of Min Hee-jin as CEO. And when the company ignored these demands, they dropped a bomb. All 5 announced their intent to terminate their contracts and leave ADOR altogether. This was a declaration of war, and ADOR didn't hesitate to fight back. The company sued the group, arguing that their contracts were legally binding and would remain in effect until their expiration in 2029. For months, the headlines were dominated by this legal standoff, but this wasn't just about the technicalities of a contract. This was about trust. NewJeans and their families dug in, claiming that ADOR had broken that trust and had coerced the members into decisions that violated their artistic and personal rights. It was a classic battle of corporation versus artist, but with a twist. The artists were some of the biggest stars in the world, and they were putting everything on the line. The fandom, the bunnies, were fiercely divided. Some saw the members as brave warriors fighting for their rights, while others worried they were being influenced and that a long legal battle would destroy the group they loved. The unity of the 5 members, however, was the one thing that seemed unshakable. They presented a solid front, a united team facing down a corporate giant. That is, until the court finally spoke and everything shattered. In late 2025, the South Korean court delivered its verdict, and it was a devastating blow to NewJeans. The court ruled that the members' contracts with ADOR were indeed valid, denying their attempt to escape the label. The group immediately announced they would appeal, but the ground had already begun to shift beneath their feet. Then came the announcement that no one saw coming, the moment that split the fandom in 2. ADOR released a statement revealing that 2 of the members, Hyun and Haerin, had reached out to the company to discuss continuing under the existing contract. According to the official notice, both members and their families had carefully considered the court's ruling and had ultimately chosen to remain with the company, independent of the other 3 members' decisions. This was the bombshell that changed everything. For the first time, the united front was broken. The image of 5 as 1 was gone. ADOR emphasized that the choice was voluntary and that they respected the members' wishes, but that message did nothing to calm the storm of speculation that erupted online. Almost instantly, the internet became a battlefield of theories and accusations. Korean netizens felt the statement confirmed the existence of a major rift between the members, something that had only been whispered about before. International fans joined the fray, with many suggesting that Hyun and Haerin, both minors throughout most of the conflict, might have been more easily persuaded by the company or were less willing to risk a years-long legal battle that could end their careers. This theory was fueled by insider reports that began to circulate, alleging that Hyun and Haerin had actively participated in discussions with ADOR's new leadership, while the other 3 members, Minji, Hani, and Danielle, were described as refusing any cooperation. One widely shared report stated that the guardians of the members had met with ADOR's new CEO, and while Hyun and Haerin's families agreed to discuss terms, the representatives for the other 3 simply delivered their conditions and abruptly left the meeting. To close followers of the case, this was a clear sign that things had not been smooth internally for a long time. The split was framed in many ways. The minors, guided by parents who wanted to avoid further conflict and financial ruin, versus the older members who had more personal agency and a deeper, more stubborn loyalty to their former CEO, Min Hee-jin. Some online commentators even argued that Hyun and Haerin were the ones acting with clearer judgment, recognizing that the legal fight was unwinnable and that continuing would only destroy the group's future. future. But on the other side, many fans saw it as a profound betrayal, a crack in the once impenetrable armor of NewJeans' unity. Just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get more convoluted, a second wave of statements shifted the entire trajectory of the controversy yet again, raising more questions than it answered. A new announcement emerged, but this time it wasn't from ADOR. It was a separate, urgent statement from Minji, Hani, and Danielle, declaring that they too had decided to return to the label after careful discussion. The fact that the statement didn't come from the company and that ADOR declined to confirm anything immediately created a vortex of confusion. But the detail that truly captured everyone's attention, the detail that seemed to symbolize the entire chaotic situation, was the explanation that their announcement had been delayed because one of the members was in Antarctica. Let that sink in. While their careers and futures hung in the balance, one member was on the other side of the planet, in Antarctica. This bizarre detail instantly became the centerpiece of discussion. It made the internal state of the group feel strange and disjointed. They clearly weren't together, physically or emotionally, during these critical, life-altering procedures. It implied that the three members were forced to scramble to meet a deadline under incredibly complicated circumstances. Their wording suggested that ADOR wasn't trying to reach out to them personally, deepening the sense that the relationship was still incredibly tense, even if they were agreeing to return on paper. In fact, Korean media reported that the three remaining members had to wait 30 minutes just to get a hold of someone at ADOR after learning about Hyein and Heron's return. The narrative that emerged was one of chaos and pressure. The three members had been cornered. With the court deadline looming and two members already siding with the company, their options had vanished. The online reaction to this sudden U-turn was a mixture of shock and cynical acceptance. Many expressed complete disbelief, with comments like, "All of them are going back now? That is something I'm shocked about." Others framed it not as a reconciliation but as a surrender, saying the members were forced into this decision because they only had one day left before the court deadline. The mention of Antarctica became a powerful symbol of a group scattered, both physically and emotionally. It painted a picture of a team that was no longer in sync, whose communication had broken down so completely that one member was on an entirely different continent while their collective fate was being decided. Many speculated that the initial decision by Hyein and Heron's families had forced the hands of the other three, creating a domino effect of damage control. If the group refused to do one thing, it was to seem divided. And now that division was out in the open, the only way to salvage anything was to fall in line. But then a glimmer of normalcy appeared. Shortly after the announcement, a fan happened to run into member who had been traveling to Antarctica and reported that she had dyed her hair brown and seemed very happy, even signing autographs in the street. This small interaction was interpreted by many as a sign of her excitement to return to idol life, a hint that perhaps beneath all the legal strife there was still a desire to perform and connect with fans. And with that, the legal struggle seemed to end. The deadline for an appeal passed on November 14th, finalizing the court's ruling. All five members were back under ADOR, and the company stated they were coordinating individual meetings with each member to ensure smooth discussions moving forward. The nightmare that had plagued NewJeans for 2 years was officially over, but the aftermath of such a brutal public conflict leaves scars. While the girls are no longer fighting their company, it's impossible to forget how hard they fought to not end up in this exact position. The tension from these events will likely take a long time to dissipate completely. The industry watched closely, as this case highlighted the immense power imbalance between labels and artists, even massively successful ones. It showed that the perception of unity is often a fragile construct, and that when pushed to the brink, even the closest of groups can fracture. The great NewJeans versus ADOR war is over, but the question remains, can a group that was so publicly broken ever truly be put back together again? The music may resume, the performances may go on, but the memory of this scandal, of the divided loyalties and the frantic statement from Antarctica will forever be a part of their story.